you don't know what EDGE is about, we are where impact and entrepreneurship thrive. We are a department at Sheridan College. We are an incubator that supports entrepreneurs and impact entrepreneurs to help them take their ideas and turn them into reality, grow their impact, grow their profits, and balance the two simultaneously. And how we do that is through mentorship and programming and learning sessions like this one. We used to have a co-working space that is currently on pause because of the pandemic, but we're hoping to get back into our co-working space soon, hopefully sometime this year. And we also provide funding opportunities. So more of a description on EDGE to come later on, but first, a land acknowledgement. So we would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather has been and still is the traditional territory of several Indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, the Métis, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Since time immemorial, numerous Indigenous nations and Indigenous peoples have lived and passed through this territory. We recognize this territory is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Treaty and the Two Row Wampum Treaty, which emphasizes the importance of joint stewardship, peace, and respectful relationships. Sheridan affirms it is our collective responsibility to honor and respect those who have gone before us, those who are here, and those who have yet to come. We are grateful for the opportunity to be working and living on this land. And a little bit about this land acknowledgement. It's not only words on a page that I'm reading. This is something that we need to pay respect to. And as I notice when I read this, I'm mindful of the environment that we're in and the land that I exist on. And it's been a bit rainy. It's been a bit overcast. And I'm grateful for that because, I take a look at the land and I can see that the grass is getting greener and the flowers are coming up and the trees are starting to bud, right? So it's as much about, respecting the people who have been here before us and also respecting the land itself and recognizing that, we must be respectful to it in order to continue to coexist. So, a little bit about me before I jump in, before I hand off the mic for quick introductions. I am John Lam, the startup man. I am a staff member here at EDGE. I'm the entrepreneurship lead. I support with mentorship and program facilitation and development and a bunch of other things. So I will be the main EDGE staff member here, but I also have two other staff members here from EDGE, Samantha and Jessica. So I'm going to hand it off to them to introduce themselves and also provide some housekeeping for using the Zoom platform.
So hi, I'm Sam. I am a co-op student here at EDGE as a learning specialist, and I will also be here to answer any questions that you guys have through the chat. And I will pass it off to Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm a co-op student working at EDGE as a learning specialist. Did you want me to jump into the reminders for Zoom? Yeah, okay.
Yep, go for it.
Okay, so please just keep yourselves muted when other people are speaking. You can type any questions you have into the chat and we will direct and answer those questions. This is also being recorded, so it's not required for you to have your webcams on, but we do encourage it.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much, Samantha, and thank you very much, Jessica. Okay, so another quick description about EDGE before we jump into it and hand things off to Tori. Again, EDGE is where impact and entrepreneurship thrive. Vibrant community for people from all backgrounds and walks of life who believe entrepreneurship can make lasting change in society. We support change makers as they explore entrepreneurial approaches to creating a more equitable and sustainable world. So in collaboration with our partners, EDGE provides new and growing ventures with mentorship, learning programs, and support to access funding, as mentioned before. EDGE is a gateway to Sheridan College's innovation resources and offers physical and virtual communities where impact entrepreneurs can thrive. All right, so that should be it from me. I will now introduce our speaker, Tori, and also the company Buy Social. So, Tori, with a passion for understanding the systems around us and working collaboratively on community-centered solutions, Tori believes in people and the power of shifting perspectives and objectives to create monumental change. At Buy Social Canada, Tori spearheads engagement and communication, championing the work of social enterprise and social procurement. And a little bit about Buy Social Canada. Buy Social Canada advances and promotes social procurement by bringing socially driven purchases and social enterprise suppliers together, building business relationships that generate social benefits to communities across country. So that is all from me. I will now hand it over to Tori to officially begin her session.
Wonderful. Thanks, John. It's really great to be here with you all today. Everyone can see screen share properly? Perfect. Okay. Welcome to Unlocking the Value of Social Procurement for Your Venture. As mentioned, my name is Tori Williamson, and I'm here with Buy Social Canada. John's already done a really lovely introduction, so I'll just say that Buy Social Canada is ourselves a social enterprise, so we have the mission to advance and grow social procurement. Now, I'd love to hear a little bit more about who else is in the room today. So I'd like to do a round of introductions. So please share your name and title, your organization, and why you want to learn about social procurement. So I'll call on people's names from the participant window here, and I'll call on people who we haven't heard from yet. So I'll leave the Buy Social Canada Edge team off the introduction. So Aaron, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name's Aaron Lambie, President and CEO of Social Awareness Group. We actually develop social procurement software and working with some players in the market, and just interested to hear what of the movement that's going on.
Wonderful. Great to have you here. Thanks, Aaron. Angela? Angela, we just got some static. Were you speaking just then? Angela, maybe you can share in the chat your intro and I'll read it out. No. Carol.
Hi, I'm actually calling in from London in England. I'm from an organization called Ted's Friend, but I work a lot with different procurement organizations. So I'm looking to just understand a bit more about what else is happening in the world.
Amazing. Thanks so much for joining us, Carol.
Thank you. It's rather late here, so please bear with me.
No problem. And Colleen?
Hi, it's Colleen Evans, and I'm the co-chair of the Coastal Community Social Procurement Initiative here on Vancouver Island, and just really interested in hearing the presentation today and just the feedback from the participants. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for joining, Colleen. Emerge LLP.
Okay. Emerge, is that Hanny from Emerge?
No problem. Emerge, if you're able to put in the chat your introduction so we can all learn a bit more about who you are when you've got the chance, that would be great. Hope.
My name is Hope, and I'm basically here to learn what's possible. That's it.
Great. Thanks for joining, Hope. Matt? All right, Matt, if you're able to share in the chat who you are and what you're interested in learning about social procurement, that would be great. Maze Alwash? Okay, and Usha Shakya.
Yes, good evening to everybody. And my name is Usha Shakya, and I'm financing sector, right? So I'm looking to change somebody's life, right? If somebody is looking for to work in that field, right? So that's why I joined this social.
Wonderful,
website.
thanks, Usha. And it looks like we've got some updates from the chat. So Angela is calling in from Toronto, and she is the co-founder of a startup developing a dice for upper limb mobility. And Matt is a Sheridan student here to learn about social procurement. So great to have such a diverse group of people who are excited to learn about social procurement. At today's session, we're going to be doing an overview of social procurement, and then we'll touch briefly on your role as a purchaser before diving in a little bit more deeply into your role as a supplier and the potential opportunities and ways to access social procurement that way. And then we'll have a quick conversation about what's next. So now I'd like to invite you to participate in a poll. So if you click the polling link in the Zoom, and please select how much do you already know about social procurement. So the options are, I don't know what it is, I've heard the term and I kind of know what it is, I understand what it is, I understand it enough to explain it to someone else, I understand it and I am doing it right now. So let's see what the sense is in the room. Okay. So got some diversity here. One person's already doing it, two don't knows, great. Oh, I love it. What a broad spectrum we have here today. So I really think it's awesome to have a diverse group in the room, because those who are more familiar with it can share their experience. And this is kind of a collaborative learning environment. So please feel free to add questions in the chat if you have them, and we'll try to address them as we go along. And there's also going to be opportunity for discussion and breakout rooms later on during the presentation. Oh, did I share the results? I don't know. There you go. Sharing the poll results. Yay. Okay. So we can acknowledge that our communities face multiple complex challenges. These include things like social, economic, and environmental impacts, from economic disruption, youth disengagement, social isolation, employment challenges, and now most recently, COVID-19 impacts and recovery. And we know that that has had a K-shaped impact. Some people have really been impacted negatively, and some people have continued on. So how do we deal with these complex challenges, as well as historic and systemic racism? At the same time, we can see that purchasing in Canada, specifically, we have here examples from federal government, is huge. There's $20 billion in goods and services purchased annually, and $200 billion over the next 10 years in infrastructure investments. These go towards things like building maintenance and cleaning, professional services, food services, translation, office supplies, repairs, construction, obviously huge with infrastructure development, and landscaping. So a lot of money is being spent by government and other types of purchasers. Within standard procurement, the equation is that the purchaser value plus the supplier value equals the economic value. So we have this framing of everything kind of in dollars and cents, and one type of value being analyzed. Social procurement is about encouraging a shift towards procurement based on achieving multiple outcomes in addition to maximizing financial value. So here in the equation with social procurement, we add social value to the addition, and then that helps create community value. So now we're talking about not just purchaser value and supplier value in terms of dollars and values of goods, but we're also talking about these broader impacts on the community and how people and the place are impacted. So you're adding a social value to existing purchasing. Trading between communities has been around for thousands of years. First Nations and Indigenous have traded their products across and amongst families, tribes, regions, and cultures, from dried fish from the coast to maize and sweetgrass from the prairies, gems and stones for shells and quills, always to enhance each other's lives. With the colonization of North America came a different marketplace model, one based upon extraction and exploitation. Over the last several hundred years, our culture shifted towards an ideology that tells us the invisible hand of the free market will unintentionally advance the interests of society. So you can see here, this first side of the evolution of procurement is only considering price and quality, and that has had serious negative impacts on people and places. In the 1960s and 70s, a green consideration was factored into procurement as we saw environmental degradation occurring from industry and development. Now in the 2000s, we've added social considerations to that equation as we are understanding that our procurement and purchasing choices have impacts and possibly positive intentional impacts on our communities. So social procurement seeks best value because every purchase has an economic, environmental, and social impact. So when we focus on best value for money, procurement is much more than a financial transaction. Procurement becomes a tool for building healthy communities. Best value for money considers more than economic transactions. It creates community capital. So you can see here, this diagram of community capital is not just economic capital, although that is definitely a part of it in terms of income, finances, and capital, but it's also cultural capital. So diversity and respect amongst people and cultures in the community. It's human capital, which includes skills and learning and training. It's physical capital, both natural and manufactured for the environment around us. And it's social capital, which is the glue that holds our communities together in the form of families, institutions, and networks. When we think about social procurement, it's interesting to think about what is possible. And so here are some examples. In construction infrastructure projects, the Vancouver Island Construction Association found that on a $1 million contract, local suppliers create 3.6 jobs compared to 1.8 to 2.0 jobs with multinational corporations. When we're thinking about social procurement and the impacts on community, thinking about local suppliers and the impacts that can have can be huge. Here, Local BC has studied the economic multiplier effect, which looks at how money recirculates in an economy. They found that for every $100 spent with a local office supply business, $63 is reinvested locally in the forms of payroll, purchasing, philanthropy, and profits. Whereas for every $100 spent with a multinational corporation, say an online, easy to access retailer, only $14 is reinvested locally. So you can see here that the majority of that money is leaving the community and won't be seen again. Whereas the local office supply business is able to recirculate a much higher amount of that. Here is an example of a social procurement with contracting a social enterprise. So BC Housing is an institution that included a social value criteria into an RFP for junk and trash removal. The bid evaluation of price, service, environment, and social led to a social enterprise, Clean Start BC, that employs people with barriers to win the contract and increase their hiring of targeted employees. So they were able to provide a social value along with that contract when they won it and grow their impact. Social procurement has two primary pathways. So what we've touched on so far is the social purchasing of goods and services, but there's also community benefit agreements for infrastructure and land development projects. Community benefit agreements are an agreement between communities, developers, and government, and they have four key opportunity areas: employment, skills and training, social value in the supply chain, and community development. So we see that with these large projects, there's a large amount of spend happening with a large opportunity in these four areas to create community benefits and add intention to the projects. Here are some examples that you might be familiar of community benefit agreements. Federally, Infrastructure Canada has the Community Employment Benefit Initiative. Metrolinx has community benefits incorporated into their projects. The City of Toronto has a CBA policy, as well as the City of Vancouver has a CBA policy. And each CBA is slightly different, but all of these ones align with trying to create community benefits through construction and infrastructure development. Here's a little bit more information about the Infrastructure Canada Community Employment Benefits. So this community employment benefits is on certain granting streams from Infrastructure Canada, and they require employment and procurement targets for at least 3 out of the 8 following targeted groups. These are apprentices, Indigenous peoples, women, persons with disabilities, veterans, youth, recent immigrants, and the 8th group, which is quite large, is small size, medium size, and social enterprises. So what they require is that the municipality select at least 3 of these and then target an amount of employment hours or contract spend towards the target groups. So we've been working with the city of Surrey, and they've decided to target all 8 of the CEB target groups on their project. It's a 8-year, 13-part project worth about $170 million. And they're targeting 30% of employment hours from these groups and 50% of contract spend from small size, medium sized, and social enterprises. So really excited to see those high targets and see them really trying to maximize on community benefits in their community. Here's an example of a community benefit agreement for Park Casino. The City of Vancouver required local hiring and purchasing as a community benefit agreement for the expanded casino. The result was that Embers, which is a social enterprise day labor subcontractor, got significant business growth and employment of more people with barriers. Anecdotally, after the project, the contractors had said that they wouldn't have thought to have gone to Embers if they hadn't been required because of the community benefit agreement. But because of the requirement from the policy, they now have there's long-term business relationships and people still subcontracting with Embers as social enterprise to this day. So a great success story of how that policy has triggered growth and impact from the social enterprise. Here is a video of a social enterprise in Toronto called Building Up.
You know, when it started, it was just me and a plumber. We started doing water efficiency retrofits, so going into buildings, changing out all the toilets, all the shower heads, all the faucets to new ones that use less water and help the building save money on their bill. And that was sort of like the kind of in to be able to tell people, hey, we can save you money, and while we're doing that, we're going to get these people working. And also, we will get projects of doing landscaping, changing out 10,000 air conditioning units, changing out 10,000 light bulbs. Because we do so much work in affordable housing buildings, you know, we have our crew going through the building with their building up shirt, and, you know, the people in the building see a group of 10 guys that look like them, and they're saying, oh, what's the deal with this company? It's at the point now where there's like about 1,000 applications every year to join the program.
Building Up is the best pre-apprentice program in the GTA, I swear, and I stand by that. I believe that without Building Up, I probably would be stuck somewhere. I don't believe I would be as far this fast. And right now I am actually on site. You can see the white panels right here. We actually putting them up. We actually installing them.
What I often say to people when they start the program is like, we are as committed to your career as you are.
You don't just learn hands-on. You don't just learn how to hammer, how to cut, how to measure. You learn how to communicate. You learn how to let people in. You learn how to help people as well. Like I said, Building Up is mind-blowing.
There's no reason we can't just keep doing more and more of this in more and more cities across Canada. I've definitely seen more opportunities for sort of intentional social procurement versus being just like something someone randomly wanted to do. You know, I hope it can be something like, you know, fair trade coffee, sort of fair trade construction.
Find out more about certified social enterprises at buysocialcanada.com.
Awesome. I love that video. So you can see that that's a social enterprise creating impact in community, and social procurement is helping them scale that impact. So now we're just going to have a quick little review of what it's like to be a social purchaser and how you can become a social purchaser, because we all buy things. So even though we're kind of thinking about if yourself as a social enterprise and how to access social procurement as a supplier selling to businesses and governments, what about your own supply chain? What are you purchasing, and how can you consider social procurement and putting your own purpose into practice in your purchasing? So many P's, wow. So here we've got the concentric circle consideration. So this model is really helpful if you're thinking about what you're buying and who to buy it from. At the center of this circle, we've got social enterprise. We at Social Canada, we certify social enterprises who have a central environmental, social, or cultural mission and reinvest the majority of their profits back into their mission. And through that profit reinvestment, you're knowing that they're really trying to maximize their mission versus maximizing their profits. So we put them at the center, but I'm sure as you guys are aware, being part of a social enterprise movement, there's not necessarily tons of social enterprises in every region selling every type of goods and service. So if you're thinking about what you want to buy and maybe there's not a social enterprise available, consider, okay, is there a local business with a social value? We see that local businesses, like we're thinking about those multiplier effects that we talked about earlier, create so much impact in their communities and often create a lot of social value as well. And then beyond that, you could think about, okay, maybe there's a regional business with a social value. You could ask these businesses, what type of social value are you creating? Do you have intentional policies to try to create social value, like having a living wage policy or trying to have diverse employment or training opportunities for staff? So these are all things that you can be thinking about when you're purchasing. And I think what's really key is just maybe taking a pause and considering, what's the easiest way to do it? Is it to go online and type in your credit card and something arrives 2 days later? Or is it to think about, a local business, especially as we're all these conversations through the pandemic about how impactful supply chains are and how local businesses need our support? Like, can you take that extra step and add that little bit of positive intention to your purchasing? And then can that then create huge impact in your community? We have this 5-step guide to implement social procurement, and you can find some implementation resources on our website. But if you're kind of being more structured in your social procurement and thinking about doing a bid or a contract, this kind of process helps walk you through. So first, it's really key to identify your strategic organizational goals. So are you trying to create a specific opportunity for a specific group in your community that you feel is underrepresented or is equity seeking? And then how can you align that organizational goal that you have on an issue that you feel is important with with an opportunity area? So we talked about employment, supply chain. What ways can you work those together? And in our tool, it'll walk you through how to do that. And then ask questions in your RFX or in your bid about that, what you're trying to achieve. Ask your bidders what they're looking for, and then evaluate the responses based upon what you're trying to achieve. And then you establish metrics for contracts and reporting. If you're interested in finding out more about this, you can put a note in the chat and we can send you some links for some of these tools. If you're interested in learning more about becoming a social purchaser, we offer purchasing partnerships. So we can teach your organization about social procurement in workshops like this that can go more in depth and be customized. We can do a supply chain audit, so review what you're already spending. You can get access to our catalog, our directory of social enterprises, as well as provide you recognition for the work that you're being done and any support on specific projects. We work with a couple of really big social procurement champions in Canada, and they're working on really cool things like their own supplier directories, or they're working on doing a series of workshops where they're telling others about social procurement. So there's lots happening and lots of ways that we can support that work. Here are some other examples of purchasers who are exploring social procurement. We talk about this as a growing demand for social value in purchasing, and we can see this from Public Service and Procurement Canada. They currently have a pilot program where they're doing social procurement looking for Black-led small businesses. Employment and Social Development Canada is really engaged in supporting social enterprise. Infrastructure Canada has their Community Employment Benefits Initiative, which I've spoken about. And then we've got here City of Edmonton, City of Calgary, City of Brampton, all working on social procurement policies and implementation. The Coastal Community Social Procurement Initiative, so shout out to Colleen, who's here from that organization, is doing fantastic work. I think they're at, I'm losing track of the members. I think they're at about 26 or 28 members right now who are all working to share resources and support each other as they develop social procurement across Vancouver Island and the Sunshine Coast. So really awesome. I mentioned Chandos and SAP. So these are corporations who have said it's really important to us. So SAP has a goal 5 and 5 by 25. So they've committed to, by 2025, they want to have 5% of their spend going towards social enterprises. So if you're a social enterprise and you think you sell a good that SAP might want to buy, then that's a huge opportunity because they've stated that they want to sell to you. Institutions, York University is working on their Markham campus, and they have a supplier directory that they're working on. I touched on BC Housing, and there's many more. So there's lots of opportunity, lots of demand here of other purchasers who are thinking about social procurement. We have tools and resources that can help you with social procurement. I won't go too deep into them right now, but maybe Maham, you can share a link to our documents and resources. But just a quick overview, if this is kind of your 101 introduction with some interactive worksheets. And then we've got the tools and resources for implementation. So that kind of RFX language, those can be found in our social value menu series. We've just released the guide to social procurement for construction and infrastructure projects. So the construction sector can understand a little bit more about how to incorporate social procurement into different projects. And then we have the supplier guide to social procurement. So this is the foundational document for the SUPER project, which is SUPER means social procurement supplier readiness. So now we're getting ready into the supplier section of our conversation here. And this document is great that walks you through a lot of the content from some of the courses that I'm going to be speaking on later. So social value suppliers. We use this term to encompass kind of a wealth of different types of organizations. But I think if you think about that concentric circle model that I shared, social enterprises, local businesses with a social value, social purpose organizations, equity seeking businesses, businesses who are really incorporating social value into their operations and into their delivery. And therefore they're the ones that social procurement is looking for. Social procurement is looking for social value suppliers. I think we can safely say that right now that the demand is greater than the supply. So there's so much opportunity here for social value suppliers. But I think we can also say that procurement in general, I don't know if any of you have responded to a 200-page RFP, but that's a pretty daunting task. So we're going to talk a little bit about how social value suppliers can get ready for social procurement and take advantage of these opportunities. So for those social enterprises who are here, we're going to have a discussion breakout of what is the social, environmental, or cultural mandate of your enterprise? What are you trying to achieve? So for those of you who aren't in a social enterprise, I encourage you to get creative with this activity and think of a social enterprise that you know and what their social, environmental, or cultural mandate or mission is. So we're going to go into a breakout room. We're going to have groups of 3 for 6 minutes, and you'll each have 2 minutes to speak. So one person in the group of 3 can assign yourselves as the timer. Get out your phone and put a little 2 minutes on a stopwatch, and everybody will have 2 minutes to speak. And I encourage you just to think about what your mission or mandate is and what you're trying to achieve. So if I think it's Sam, we'll be able to open up those breakout rooms, and we'll give to them, you enter their supply chain. If you sell directly to government, you will have a business to government relationship and you become a vendor. We use the term suppliers and vendors interchangeably here and throughout, but that's kind of when you're thinking about your B2G and B2B sales, you could be a supplier or a vendor and you're incorporated in that supply chain. You may be a supplier to a business that then provides sales services to government. This doesn't change your relationship to them as a supplier, but you could be adding significant value to them as a social value supplier. So if they are incorporating social value in their supply chain by practicing social procurement, they could then be selling that as a selling point of their own, government or people could be asking, do you practice social procurement? And they could say, yes, we contracted with this social enterprise and we help create this type of social value. So there becomes these layers in the supply chain when we think about social procurement. So here are some local opportunities when you're thinking about social procurement. The City of Brampton has launched a supply chain diversity program, which will be embedded as part of the city's invitational procurement process for tenders of $25,000 to $100,000. Suppliers who would like to participate in this program will have to be certified as a diverse supplier through established supplier certification organizations, for example, by Social Canada. There's a little plug. The City of Mississauga has a sustainable procurement policy, which went into effect in January 2018. And this means that in addition to looking at price, quality, and service, the city will also consider the sustainable practices of a vendor during the procurement process. The region of Peel is committed to open, fair, and transparent procurement practices to achieve best value for money in the stewardship of public funds. Like the City of Brampton and Mississauga, all of the region's open bids are posted on bids and tenders. And if you're not familiar with bids and tenders, that's definitely something that gets explored in the longer workshop as we think about finding RFP opportunities. Toronto Community Benefits Network supports social enterprises and other related vehicles to economic inclusion through commitments to social procurement. This information, along with other community resources, can be found on their website. Metrolinx recognizes that its major infrastructure investments should provide benefits for the communities in which it works, including employment, training, apprenticeship, local supplier, and social procurement opportunities where possible. Metrolinx has therefore committed to include a community benefits and program for their rapid transit projects, beginning with the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. Halton Community Benefits Network aims to educate and engage community partners as they adopt community benefit agreements. The network will advocate for post-construction employment opportunities, cultivation of social enterprises, and improvement to other resultant community needs like public transit. And you can find more information on their website. And the Peel Community Benefits Network ensures that residents benefit from economic opportunities that large infrastructure projects like the Hurontail LRT will bring to the community. And you can find more information on their website. So there is a lot happening locally where organizations are engaged in some way in social procurement and trying to incorporate social value into their projects. There's a variety of spectrum of like where each of these projects and initiatives are at, ranging from policy to implementation. But I strongly encourage you, if any of these seem like something that you're interested in or could be aligned with what your social enterprise is doing, to check them out, because there's definitely a lot of movement. And you can also feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Maham is our lead in Ontario, and she can answer any questions that anybody has about these opportunities. And Maham can share your email in the Slack, in the chat. Does anybody have any questions about all of these different things, pieces that are happening? Okay. So now we're going to look at a worksheet. So I'm going to share this worksheet in the chat. And it's going to take you to a Google Doc. I'm going to just click on it here. And you can click on it yourselves, and I just invite you to make a copy so you'll have your own version to work off of. So if you click on File, and then you should be able to make a copy, and then you can work on your own version of the worksheet. So we're going to take just a little bit of time here to go through your opportunity assessment of your organization and think about who you are selling to. So you can do a percentage or dollar spend estimate of your current sales mix when you're thinking about, are you selling to federal or provincial government, local government, crown corporations, institutional purchasers. These are things like hospitals or schools, private corporations, small and medium enterprises or nonprofits. So maybe focus on nonprofits in that one, or then direct to consumers. And what the goal is here as you think about this is to think about, what is your sales mix right now? Are you predominantly B2G, B2B, B2C, or are you interested in maybe expanding more into B2B and B2G from B2C? And then Next, take a look at why do they buy from you? And this is where we need to be thinking about what is our social value that we're creating, or what is the goods or service that we're offering? What's kind of our, why are they choosing to purchase from us? And kind of do some brainstorming. So I'm gonna, let's see, what time is it? 5. I'm gonna give everybody 5 minutes right now just to sit and work on your worksheet. If you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, and then we'll check in 5 minutes just to see how everybody went and what your ideas you had as to why these organizations choose to buy from you.
For those of you who might be at the idea stage and you haven't made any sales yet, go ahead and put down what you anticipate your business to actually be doing and who you might want to be selling to.
That's a great point. Thanks, John. Absolutely. And I encourage you to definitely kind of be creative with this conversation. And I think if you're at that idea stage, the next worksheet too will be really helpful. Hanny?
Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to value. Like, what value are you actually providing for them? So from like looking at the list, I don't know if we personally would like check off every single one of those, but I can see if I like try to think of like from their perspective, like, okay, I can see why, for example, what do we have here? Like institutional purchasers, universities, for example, why they would want technically to be our customer, because our age group is specifically from 18 to 30, so target students. So how can we then add value in that perspective? Federal governments and provincial governments, it's like if I look at it and put the value add hat, I'm like, okay, well, what is their mandate? And how can we then align and add value? And I think for the most part, if you're a social impact company, you have the advantage that you can check off a lot of these, but you just have to think which ones does it like go back to your own mission and goes back to your own business model that will like align. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like you definitely don't have to try to sell to all of these different groups. I think focusing on a few that make the most sense, or maybe there's one that makes the most sense for you and your business, but they might have that one type of organization might have, a diverse range of reasons, but aligning with the target audience, aligning with the values and the social impact you're trying to create. Maybe they just really like your product or service, maybe you just do a great job and that's what they want. Maybe they want to try to tell the storytelling of their supply chain and be able to say we're doing purpose-driven work by supporting these businesses in our work because they align with our own mission as well. So thinking about those social purchasers that I mentioned before and what they're trying to achieve. Are they trying to achieve, access to non-traditional labor pools, equity seeking work? Are they trying to increase training? If schools are thinking about education, maybe they even, like I say, a university who isn't supporting the trades, but maybe because education is a mandate they want to support businesses that have strong training programs because that aligns with their values. So those are definitely great ideas that you had, Hanny. Thank you for sharing. Awesome. Okay. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to hop in, or thoughts that arose when they were going through the exercise? Okay. So social procurement is an opportunity. There is a variety of reasons why. Blended value return businesses are growing as both customers and investors care about the business impact on our world, environment, and communities. It is increasingly demanded, and so people are wanting impact from their purchasing that they're making. Social enterprise and social purpose businesses have been coming into their own and are growing both as businesses individually and as a sector. So you guys are all, everyone here who is a social enterprise is part of that movement to grow social impact. Sorry, I just saw that there were some comments in the chat about music. I also had that thought that we should have some music for the next one. And then there's room in the procurement process and systems to be specifically recognize and reward social value creation. So here they talk about the exemptions in the trade agreement on this slide, but I think there's so much opportunity here because these businesses and governments are asking, you know, what's your social value? So if you are creating social value in your business, you have that leg up to say, this is what we're delivering on. Right now, we're working with the city of Calgary, and they have implemented a questionnaire where they're asking things like, what training do you provide for equity-seeking groups? What do you have a social procurement policy? Are you certified as a social enterprise or as a diverse supplier? Are you a small business? They have the exemptions in trade agreements mean that, like, if you're incorporated as a nonprofit, there's opportunities to contract directly to government in simpler ways. Although simple is probably not the word to be using in that context of contracting to government, but there's a lot of opportunity here where people are demanding for the type of value that you're creating. So here are some real world examples of how different social enterprises have connected with B2B and B2G buyers. So these examples include Causeway Landscaping having a multi-year contract for lawn care and snow removal with Ottawa Housing. Starworks employs people with developmental disabilities, and they provide gift box assembly services for a Sol Goods Gifts, where they make packages of impact-focused gifts. Diversity does interpretation and translation. There's a wide variety of interpretation and translation social enterprises who contract with government and institutions like hospitals. Embers is the construction firm that I mentioned previously, and they contract with all sorts of construction firms. We've got catering is a big one, although obviously hugely impacted right now. Cleaning is another one. Everybody, like especially businesses, purchase cleaning for their offices when we all had offices. And there's a lot of social enterprises that provide cleaning services and recycling. So there's a cool project in Vancouver where the Binners sorts recycling and provides education around reducing waste. So there's a huge range of different social enterprises, a lot of them providing additional employment opportunities for people who may face barriers. The buyers range from all types, from nonprofits to corporations to government. And these businesses serve a number of different buyers, often with diverse customer bases, and they can be part of a diversified sales strategy. Does anybody have any examples of contracts or social enterprises you know of that have contracts with institutions or governments or businesses that you'd like to add to this list and share? Well, I think the fact that nobody's jumping to put their hands up just means that we need to do more storytelling as social enterprises, telling these stories, and that's a whole other kind of conversation, but it's so important to tell the stories, and from both the purchaser and the supplier perspective, you know, if you can put out some sort of media around a contract that you have and the impact that's created. So say, you know, you've got a contract with a hospital to do translation services, and that means that you've got 6 immigrant and refugee women who have employment from that one contract. Like, that's a great story, and that's so key to this work, is explaining that social value creation and is helping to spread that story. So that's a little bit of a tangent, but if anybody does have any stories they like to share like that, I think they're really powerful to share and talk about as we think about social procurement. So the next worksheet is on page 2 of the same Google Doc that you copied already. So this is looking at procurement readiness considerations. And it asks that you have the 5 categories are mission, market, manage, money, and measure. And within each of these things, it kind of explains what would be part of procurement readiness and invites you to score yourself between 1 to 5. So we can each take a couple minutes here, and if you can go through the self-assessment and give yourself a score, with 1 being very early stages, we've just started thinking about it, we don't really have anything written down, to 5 being like, yes, we feel solid, this is ready to go and we're ready to rock. And I really encourage you to be honest in your self-assessment, because the next thing that we're going to talk about is how you can do steps to improve your score. So don't be afraid of scoring yourself low and thinking that you're not quite ready, because then we can have a conversation about what's next. And I'm going to play some music for this one. So we'll have like a 3 or 4 minute song's length to score yourselves. The next step is to think about how to improve. So here we've got an example for mission. So this one's been scored at a 4, and they felt that we live and breathe our mission, but we use too much jargon to explain it. Simplify and run it by people outside of our sector for feedback. So that's a great breakdown of how they think they can improve and what steps they want to take. I know that jargon is a big issue for us because social procurement just sounds so glamorous. People always want to talk about it, but I think that being kind of looking at where you're at and thinking about steps to improve is really helpful as you become more procurement ready. So the next step is to have another breakout room for 5 minutes. So it'll be 2 people in the room, and together I invite you to brainstorm and share about what steps you'll do to improve 1 or 2 of your scores. So does anybody have any questions before we go into that breakout room? Okay, great. Samantha, if you could do groups of 2, and we'll just do for 5 minutes. Okay, welcome. Is everybody back? Okay. Maham is gone, but that's okay. Welcome back, everybody. So I hope you kind of had some interesting conversations in there about your next steps. If anybody would like to share, I'd be curious to hear what you kind of came up with as your next steps. But if you want to keep that to yourself, that's also okay, no problem. Oh, there we go. We've got a few back. Welcome back, Mohammed and Usha. How did it go in your breakout room?
Great, Usha. I was the one mostly kind of bugging Usha about her organization, but she provided some kind of great information. We did a bit of analysis of where the organization stands and just places for further score improvement.
Great, awesome. Well, I hope this tool is helpful as everybody thinks about what stage they are in their procurement readiness. So if you're feeling like this is mildly overwhelming and you're asking yourself, why am I engaging with this? It can be a lot of work, but please know that accessing procurement opportunities does get easier as you gain these skills, and then you become more used to it and you get to that point where you're procurement ready and you develop a bid book so you can respond easy to RFPs and you get more processes. It definitely becomes easier. There are several benefits to selling to business and governments, which include revenue diversification, refining your business model, getting valuable feedback, and of course, you're more competitive than you think. As we're demanding social value in procurement across the country, there is so much more demand for the types of goods and services with a social value that you're creating as social enterprises. So I encourage you to rise and meet that demand and be able to use that as a way to grow and increase your impact as social enterprises. I mentioned briefly that Social Canada offers a social enterprise certification. So if you are a business with a majority of revenue generated by the sales of goods or services with a central social, environmental, or cultural mission or purpose, and you reinvest the majority of profits back into that central mission or purpose, I strongly encourage you to get certified. It's free for the first year, and we offer a wealth of benefits and a supportive network of social enterprises who are all learning and growing across Canada on delivering their business with impact. I invite you to continue your learning journey if you're interested in learning more about these kind of some of the topics I've touched on before. We have the procurement training for social value suppliers. The 4-week course starts on May 6th, is the first one of the year. So applications are now open, and you can find out about a lot more information on our website. As well, if you're thinking like, oh, maybe procurement isn't quite right for me, we do have another workshop, which is storytelling training for social value suppliers. And this one's much more widely applicable to social enterprises because, as I've mentioned, storytelling is so critical to the work being done. Crafting effective stories, sharing your impact powerfully. And then in this course, it's cool. We use an online platform called Lumen 5, and you can go on and create your own video, and we'll do it during the program. And it's super easy, and you can have that to share on your website and social media, and have that toolkit to draw on when you're creating digital content items. So super fun course, and the first one will be in June. So you find out more on information on our website, and of course, feel free to email me if you have questions. So I'd like to round off today with a question for each person and ask you what your next step is to pursue social procurement. Is there kind of something you want to pursue for your business? You think you want to learn more to become a supplier? Do you think you want to learn more to become a purchaser? Do you want to start looking at your supply chain? Do you want to start trying to see who your potential customers could be? Lots of different options. So maybe I'll call on everybody one by one, and hopefully you're able to share what your next step is. So maybe John, and you looked very pensive just there. Do you have a next step when you're thinking about social procurement?
Yeah, I think that, we've been intentional at Edge to try to be mindful of the social and environmental impacts of the entrepreneurs and the vendors and the service providers that we work with. So an example is, bringing Tori and Maham in, for this session, and we definitely want to continue, as we take a look at all the external companies that we work with, all the clients that we work with, so that, everything that we do has that kind of impact focus. And I think it's just continuously asking ourselves, right? Are we putting that at the forefront? Are we considering these aspects when it comes to the companies and the people that we want to work with? So it's about that next step is continuing to be intentional and asking ourselves, what values do we want to align with, and how do we want to procure and work with the companies that we need to work with going forward.
Great, thanks so much for sharing, John. Usha, do you have a next step? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm looking for more connection with the human connections, right? So that way I can connect and I can sell my product to them.
Yeah, building relationships is huge. Those one-on-ones at Social Capital, letting people know your business and trying to let them be aware of what you're offering. I think that's a great one. Awesome. Hani?
Oh, sorry, I'm on mute. So I think for the next steps for us, reflect on everything we're doing to make sure that it is actually social procurement, and it is something that everything we're doing is going back to, or some way going back to the social impact. So I think next steps, because everything I think we're going forward, we're building relationships, we're trying to expand. It's now just taking a step back and really seeing like, how are we actually creating that social impact in everything we're doing?
That's great. Maze, do you have anything you'd like to share for a next step? Or Hope, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Not this time. I'm still in a basic idea stage, just learning what this is all about. So not there yet. Thanks.
Lots of learning to be done. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Okay, and my next step is going to be the upcoming Social Canada Symposium. So I invite you all, if you're interested in learning more about social procurement, to come join us for this virtual conference. It's a one-day event that's going to be interactive and have social procurement leaders from across the country in a variety of sectors, all sharing kind of what's happening in social procurement and the potential it has to create for tomorrow. So really excited for this event. I strongly encourage you to register if you're interested. Okay, and with that, I'd like to conclude. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. If anybody would like to stay and ask some questions, I can stay on for a few more minutes. But other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. And thank you so much for having us.
And thank you for being here, Tori and Maham, and talking to us about this.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Tori, for all this information. You know, if you can help me to connect the people, I would be really happy.
Great, Usha. Yeah, I think we can connect you with Maham. If you can share your email, you can connect with Usha.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, so that concludes our night. Thank you all for being here and joining us on this wonderful evening to learn about social procurement. Samantha has popped in a feedback form for this session, so please do fill that out and let us know your thoughts about the session and what you would like to see at the next session as well. That is now